Singh, sir, your opening comments?
I think the fundamental confrontation that we notice here is the Gen Z is saying how social media has helped them unravel the whole culture of corruption in Nepal, particularly targeting three leaders who've been shuffling between them despite enormous political instability. So they talk about culture of corruption and the government and KP Sharma Oli who talks about national dignities.
So one more thing which is coming, Professor, also one more thing. Nepo kids, dynasty politics. There is another word which is there trending on YouTube, because sometimes you get to glimpse the real picture because it's the most unregulated medium globally, even more unregulated than Twitter. So the words which are coming up is not social media, it's corruption and Nepo kids.
So it's a pervasive corruption which is being unraveled, and government is saying it's social media itself is corrupting the culture. So one is talking of corruption culture, other is talking of corrupting of the culture is how the broad division looks like at this time. But about 3 platforms I understand, including TikTok, are still open and are still going viral with what you said, Nepo kids, luxury, goods and expensive vacations, etc., etc. I want to bring in this foreign hand as well, because it looks like social media not just connects people among protesters, but this is a news which is going around the world now on social platforms, on legacy media and so on. And there is always this fear of, as Professor Muni just mentioned, what happened in Sri Lanka, the insinuations in Pakistan that Prime Minister Imran Khan had made. Then, of course, the Prime Minister from Bangladesh made similar insinuations of American connection. And I think that also needs to be understood as to how far that is the possibility here. The immediate requirement here is for the government to call these people to send some kind of representation and see how they can tell what needs to be done. Otherwise, this protest, the longer it goes, the more criminal elements will get into these protests. And then that completely derails the process in a very different direction every next hour, every next day.
Because Professor Singh, that's where the question is. That's where the question is, I in Nepal have strengthened over a period of time and may be able to sustain, absorb and incorporate its political protest the way it happens in India. What we saw through Lokpal and other protests, we were able to absorb it.
I think the first thing is the democratic roots, as Professor Moni will vouch, have grown over decades. It's not just only now. And every time, of course, the youth was at the forefront around the world, but also particularly in case of Nepal, one after another examples of protests leading to further democratization of the entire process. And I understand republicanism and federalism is fairly grounded now in Nepal. But when we talk about India, I think I was completely surprised why the government in Nepal was not prepared for such a response, because the process goes back to Supreme Court judgment last September. And, 7 days before when KP Sharma Oli was in Beijing, of course, this process was unfolding of requiring registration. And 26 of these applications, when, the main earners of foreign exchange and people of Nepal are around the world, this is the Sarah time, they need to be constantly connected. Young generation is, of course, they are the digital natives, as we call them. And not to expect some response like this when you ban 26 platforms. India, if you remember, in 2021 had taken a very different approach, doing the same thing, asking for grievance redressal officers, for compliance officers to be locally designated, etc. But India did it in such a fashion of using IT Act Section 69 of very selectively targeting certain URLs, targeting certain accounts. And all we had is op-eds were written in criticism, or you had court cases, or the UN rapporteur was saying that India's action was not in line with human rights, etc. Very different, very calibrated way of dealing with the same situation. Here it is blindfolded walking into trouble, which Nepal is doing, or is it arrogance of power? Just same 3 leaders keep rotating. I think that is another issue of frustration among young people there. that there is no fundamental change, and they sustain that instability constantly. And of course, increasing the whole culture of corruption over a period of time is a major question for them. And then not being prepared and seeing that parliament is getting attacked. Right now, media is saying 16 people have died on the ground, more than 100 are injured badly. And that kind of chaos should have been anticipated. It's fundamentally law and order problem. And if they don't manage it well, of course, as everybody is saying, everybody else will piggy bank and create more chaos there. And it will be a prolonged period of chaos for Nepal, which is absolutely not good for India, because India, is in the neighborhood again. And some of this anger will start drifting to India. The question was, India is not being named now. But if it sustains itself, immediately some of it will get deflected to India as well.
Absolutely. There's a bit of a breaking news. Nepal